think one of the problems that we have in construction is you have this older generation, right, that they don't feel like the younger generation, the new people coming in are worth it. And it's because they don't have work ethic. They don't have these things that I was taught, or this divine knowledge that they feel like they were born with. And I always say, well, what if nobody taught them? Listen up. We are back with another episode of the Construction Mentor Podcast. My name is Ike. I am your host. What are we here to do? We're here to promote the construction industry. We like to invite people in to tell their stories, how they came up, where they came from, how they found success through a career in construction, and what that life could look like for you if you decided to follow in those footsteps. If you're already in the industry, we want to share the stories. We want to share the mentorship that you need to take your career to the next level. So today, we have a new guest, Roger Scheck. Roger, how are you?
Doing good.
Roger, let's just get right into it. Tell people where in the world you're hailing from and what exactly it is that you do.
So I'm a licensed general contractor in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and I specialize in high-end residential renovations primarily. A lot of kitchens, a lot of bathrooms, a lot of whole house renovations.
Interesting. Very interesting. And how long you been in business for yourself?
Just about 10 years now.
10 years. You don't look old enough to be a 10-year business owner.
Thank you. Yeah, it started in we moved back in 2014. I started flipping houses in 2015, started the social media thing, and it kind of jumped off after that.
And are you still flipping houses, or did you kind of hone in on your niche?
I'm officially retired as of last year. As of January, I sold my last flip. Flipping is dead. If someone's trying to convince you to start flipping because you can make a bunch of money, don't do it. They're trying to make a bunch of money selling you a program. So I did about 8, I think, in those 10 years. And it's tough, man. It's really, really tough with the cost of material and labor now. The first several I did everything on. So I was able to make money that way. But on this last one, being a full-time licensed general contractor, I subcontracted a lot of it. I did a little bit of it, but only when I had to. And it just the money's not there anymore.
I love that honest opinion, because I think that's what a good portion of people that come to me for mentorship end up asking me about. And I think it's just this like pipe dream that a lot of people have, that they think that it's easy. And I think it was for a long time, but that time has passed. So I appreciate you for being honest there. And the other thing that you said is, if you were to do it and do it successfully, you got to have the time, you got to have the money to kind of sit on and kind of invest all of your time into it and be able to do most of the work yourself, which a lot of people can't do without experience in construction. And I doubt that's how you got your experience to start. So I do want to get into that. So let's back it up and just talk a little bit about like where you grew up. Did you grow up in that area in North Carolina? And what were you like as a kid?
So I was leaned towards the arts growing up. I was born in a town called Russell, Kansas. There was about 5,000 people there. Home of Bob Dole. That's its claim to notoriety. And my dad got a job in Oklahoma. So I came of age in Oklahoma, McAlester, Oklahoma. And my dad had a really good job with Texaco and worked on gas wells. He always wanted to be a general contractor. He loved building, loved renovations. So when he would get a bonus or a raise, we would renovate a part of the house. We would remodel the kitchen, a bathroom. We did a lot of fences. We did stuff for my grandparents and friends and family, lots of roofing. And I was just kind of there the whole time, observing, helping. When I was 8 years old, I was helping shingle my grandmother's roof, half a bale of shingles at a time, because that's all I could carry up the ladder. So, it's the way I grew up. And at some point I decided I want to be an artist. I got into photography, went to film school, and that's how I got to North Carolina. So I went to the North Carolina School of the Arts for filmmaking.
Can we just clear something up right now for those of you watching on video? The artwork behind him is not his.
It's not. Those were presents from my kids several years ago for my office.
And it's good stuff. It's just, had to clear that up.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
I wasn't
you were
that
in
good.
film school.
I was in film school.
Didn't
I
work
got
out.
I graduated. I got a degree in filmmaking, got a degree in cinematography. I ended up producing a feature film for $3,500 in my senior year with an all student cast and crew. It got distributed. Um, the same Hollywood story. The distributor took all the money and ran. Um, and then, I got stuck in the reality. We moved out to LA after I graduated, my wife and I got stuck in the reality TV industry and absolutely hated it. So, I left. I went back to photography. I started a youth sports photography business, and I did that right as the iPhone came out. So, that kind of piddled out. And I had a friend call me who was still in the reality TV industry and asked me if I wanted to be on House Hunters renovations. So, I auditioned. My wife and I got on. That's still on iTunes if you want a good laugh. It's about 10 years old now. So, my dad came out. He looked at, uh, well, sorry, back it up. They did the kitchen, and I was still in this film mode, but my wife wanted to know if we could remodel the rest of the house. So we did 2 bathrooms and did a bunch of painting and stuff like that. And when my dad saw it, he said, you could always go back to North Carolina and become a general contractor if this film thing doesn't work out. And I think I told him, I said, I'm going to kill myself if I have to do that. So about 2 months later, he laughed, I laughed. It was all a big joke. He knew that wasn't my dream, so he didn't push it for me. But this opportunity came up. I realized I didn't want to be in LA anymore. And my wife and I moved back here. We sold our house. I bought 2 foreclosures and started flipping and basically did all the work myself. I started a Facebook fan page where people started noticing my work and asking me to do small jobs, handyman stuff, fix a deck, put in a cat door, things like that. And it got bigger and bigger, and bathrooms and kitchens. And eventually I got a job offer for a basement in a very high-end neighborhood called Brookberry Farm. And I wasn't licensed. So I told the homeowner, I can't really do the job, because at the time in North Carolina, you had to have a license to do anything over $30,000. This was a $160,000 basement. So she said, I really like you. You come highly recommended. Would you go take the test? And I said, well, I'll try. So I passed the test, and that was it. I was a licensed contractor, and everything else has been permitted since then.
Wow, that's incredible. If I take a step back, why did your friend in film school know that you were a good candidate for the show on HGTV? Is it just because you were always like a handy guy in your group of friends, or what was the connection there?
The HGTV show was House Hunters Renovations, so they don't really look at you to do the renovations. They're going to come in and renovate your home. So it was just kind of a happy accident that I knew how to do stuff, and they could incorporate it into the show that I was remodeling as well.
And this is basically just off of all the hands-on experience that you got starting at 8 years old with your father and your grandfather, and different parts of the
pretty much,
Oklahoma.
yeah. I just kind of jumped in and made a lot of mistakes and fumbled my way through it. It's a joke now, but at the time, YouTube was just kind of getting hot for that kind of stuff. And you were able to go look at some DIY stuff of professionals that were kind of showing you how to do tile and different things. So I watched a few of those. I did some good work. I did some bad work. And, we ended up selling the
learning.
Yeah, it worked out so perfectly, because we didn't have to pay capital gains tax, because I had a business that I was closing and moving out of state. So, it was all legit. I got to keep everything from the sale of the house and start my new company in North Carolina.
Incredible. So I want to talk about 2 things. I want to talk about that experience that you had as a kid and kind of the fallback, and then I want to go into, film school. I'd like to address that. So as a kid, I kind of had a similar story where I was around job sites and I learned how to do things. I know what it's like as a young kid to throw a bundle of shingles on my shoulder and make your way up the ladder. For reference, it's like 80 pounds. So a half a bundle would be about 40 pounds. That's a lot. I don't think a lot of adults today could carry 40 pounds of shingles over their shoulders up a ladder onto a roof. Talk about that advantage that gave you, especially when it comes to like having the fallback. Like I was always taught, always have a trade to fall back on. Right. So what did that do for you, especially as you were chasing, film school and you had other ambitions?
Never even occurred to me. Wasn't even an option to fail at filmmaking. I went out there to be Quentin Tarantino. Obviously, so did 4 million other people. And without playing the Harvey Weinstein game, you're not going to get anywhere, until you get invited to that Getty party that makes you, if you choose to go down that road, you're just not going to make it. It's just, it's all smoke and mirrors. All the success stories, it's just all smoke and mirrors. No one's out there to help you. They want to make their movie. That's all they care about.
What were some of the things that you picked up at a very young age that you still carry with you? Like I always try to point out things. One of the biggest advantages that I think that I've had in my life coming up, and I think you would agree with the same, when you grow up around blue collar people and doing that kind of work, you pick up things that become second nature, like punctuality, stuff like that. What were some things that work ethic, right?
Showing up, having a desire to provide for yourself. I got in fights, verbal debates in film school because it's a very liberal place and
different kind of people.
It was always, we need healthcare. And I'm like, I'm not sick. I don't want healthcare. Let me go make my own way.
Yeah, right.
I don't want someone taking care of me. That was always just in me, and that's the way I was raised. Very young, I wanted things, whether it was Legos or whatever, a bike. I asked my dad, how do you get things? And he said, you go work for it. He said, go get a job. I had my first job in the 5th grade, which I think they would call slave labor now, but I worked in the school cafeteria in Bickerdike Elementary School in Russell, Kansas for $1 a day and lunches. I would bus tables and wash dishes, and I gave up recess in the 5th grade to do that job because that $1 a day meant more to me than going out and playing. From there, I would leave and go bag ice in a convenience store with a buddy of mine. We got 5 cents for a small bag and 10 cents for a big bag. And we might split $1.50, maybe it was $2.50 one day, but I did that every day, through the 5th grade. And eventually it led to the opportunity where I was able to get a paper route, and I was making $300 or $400 a month, and none of my friends had money, but I always had money, so I could do what I wanted. And it just, I don't know, man. My dad, that's always lived with me, go make it. You want it, go get it.
So I think one of the problems that we have in construction is you have this older generation, right, that they don't feel like the younger generation, the new people coming in, are worth it. And it's because they don't have work ethic. They don't have these things that I was taught, or this divine knowledge that they feel like they were born with. And I always say, well, what if nobody taught them, right? Like you had your father that taught you that. I had my father that taught me. I don't know if you employ people yet. I'd love to hear about that. And I'm sure even if you don't, you have subcontractors and you have people come in your job. They do things that create a perception about them, right? What are some easy things that people can do to create the right perception about them, that they have work ethic and that they're worth either taking a chance on or sinking some mentorship into?
Show up on time, invest in tools, show me that you're interested in the job I've given you by coming in with a new hammer drill or something. Be excited about what we're doing for the day. Show up with your tools. We had a young kid that worked for us, and we'd have to tell him to go get his hammer. We're demoing a deck, man. Go get your hammer. And the funny thing is, he took the same test I did, and now he's a licensed general contractor. So it's frustrating. But cleanliness, I think, is highly underrated. Um, when it comes to drywall, if you're coming to do an estimate, you shouldn't look like you do drywall. Same thing with a painter. We work in $1 million homes, sometimes more than that. And for someone to write you a $200,000 check for an interior renovation, they expect you to show up in a clean truck and clean clothes and speak properly. That good old boy mentality doesn't fly with people that can afford a $200,000 check.
I love that for a ton of reasons. I 100% agree. I made a post a few months ago where Andy Frisella had made a comment about a plumber having his butt crack hanging out and having a hole in his shirt and yada, yada. And I got a 50-50 feedback. Some blue collar guys were upset about it. Some people loved it. But you're dead on. Like I call it trunk slammers. Like if you have a trades guy pull up in like a beat up Subaru and they pull all their tools out of their trunk and they're slamming it when they show up, that is not like, would you want to hire that person in your house? And then think about trying to start a business or getting hired at a good wage. Do you look like a person that deserves that? Do you look like a person that's going to get a premium client that's going to pay a high dollar or a high rate for your work? Because especially when you own your own business or you're working in the high-end homes or even for, high-end commercial properties, the opportunity is there to make way more than the average. Like if the average carpenter is making $50 an hour, you could be making a lot more than that, and people will be willing to pay that if you give them the impression that you're worth it, right? So I love that. Be interested and look the part. I can't tell you, before we move back on to, because I want to talk about your college degree, I can't tell you as the construction mentor, this platform and this persona that I have created, and I'm helping a lot of people with resume writing. Number one, the resume is terrible. But number two, when I ask them about what they're going to wear to their interview, I get a lot of blank looks. And like, hey, your interview's tomorrow. Do you plan on shaving? Do you plan on getting a haircut? These things absolutely matter, and you're creating an impression, immediately. People are using what they can see to evaluate your competence immediately. That's just human nature. So
I couldn't agree more. I talked recently about that as well. You may not like it, but we as humans judge books by their covers, especially when you're getting ready to write a $100,000 check. I would, somebody rolls up, I wouldn't hire some of these guys if I were on the other side. You roll up in a 1992 F-150 that is got mismatched fenders. I mean, they have a purpose and a time, but they're not going to be the one you hire to do $60,000 worth of cabinet work.
Well, and you hear a lot of complaints too, where a lot of people that I have on the podcast, they talk about growing their business, but not in the way that most people would think. I think when a lot of people think about entrepreneurship, they think they want to go from 5 guys to 10 guys to 20 guys to, they're rolling out vans, the fleet leaves in the morning and they just got jobs going on all over the place and checks are coming in. The more and more people that I talk to, they don't want that. They don't even want more volume. They want to keep their small crew very controlled. And where they make more money is by getting higher end clients, people that pay to do it and to do it right, people that aren't looking for the cheap stuff or to get it done fast. Like, and that have the money, right? That they don't have to chase
Absolutely.
for, right? So they look for efficiencies on the job. They look for educating their small crew. They look for getting better deals and purchasing power on the materials that they get. And they look for the right clients as opposed to a lot of clients. So I have a feeling, and I want to get to those checks, but on the road to before we go to, how somebody can build a business to get some 6-figure checks, because I think that probably has some people's attention. Talk to me about that degree and what you would say to somebody, because I post about college degrees all the time, right? And usually on the list, at the bottom of the list for starting salaries is art and film and things like that. So what do you say to the person that wants to be Matthew McConaughey?
Good luck. There's a million of them, man, and I know you can be the exception, but you really can't.
The funny thing is that I actually have somebody taking my course now, right? For those of you who don't know, there is a course out there for construction management. I would say it is heavily geared toward commercial construction management, what I would call like the formal world of, contracting when you go for the bigger commercial clients like the Fortune 500 types. But it's definitely applicable to all construction. I think a lot of residential construction is they don't realize they don't call the processes the same things, but the processes are the same. Um, Anyway, I have a student right now, and I just went through his resume the other day, and he was in reality TV and lives in Burbank, California, and he just does. He was doing like the paranormal TV shows, and he was just like, "Dude, Hollywood's dead." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "I mean, literally everybody that I know is out there looking for a job. It's all either getting outsourced to different parts of the country, different parts of the world, and they're just not filming or doing any kind of production or anything like that in Southern California anymore. And it's like it's bad. It's like the .com bubble just burst, or the housing crisis when all the realtors were out of work and the mortgage brokers were out of work." He said it's really bad, and I think a lot of people are trying to flock to construction, but they don't have any experience or any education to do it, and it's a struggle. So on top of everything you just said, even the people that were in the industry and that kind of were committed and even that found some success, they're struggling, and it's not good.
Especially in that area, film. So I moved out there in 2006 when I graduated, and the film industry pretty much vaporized in 2008 with everything else. And it became reality TV. I couldn't find a job to make a movie to save my life. That's why I got stuck in reality TV. And I worked my way up. It was miserable. It's a miserable existence with people that are miserable because they all wanted to be Quentin Tarantino too. And they're in these reality shows with these celebrities. I got a job offer to make decent money finally on the Kendra show. If you remember, Hugh Hefner had 3 girlfriends at
Yeah,
one point in
I
time.
do.
And Kendra married a basketball player, and it was 2 or 3 seasons into this thing. And that's when I walked out of the CNN building. They called and offered me the job. And I told my wife, I hate this. I hate my life. I hate these people. This sucks. And she said, well, don't take it. We'll figure it out. And, I owe everything to my wife. She's just,
Good woman right there.
I mean, she's everything. She supported me. The smartest thing she ever did was let me decide to leave LA and not, I mean, she was real close. She was real close to saying we're leaving LA, but it was my choice. And she let that happen, which let all of this happen organically. And it kind of just worked out, man.
So I know I'd like to climb the ladder about how you got to where you are, but looking at where you are versus, I'm sure you still are in contact with some of your friends back there, in some way. I mean, who's living the glamorous life? Did it work out for them? How do people see you? Did they think that you were crazy for moving back to do that? And what's that looking like now that the results have kind of played out over 10 years?
I didn't keep up with a lot of those people. They kind of evolved into different circles. I was married, I was older when I went to school. I think I was 24 or 25 when I graduated. They were all 19, and I was 4 years older, and I was married, and I didn't go out to bars, and it just didn't, those friendships never meshed. And maybe that's why I wasn't as successful, but I don't know that any of them are that successful. I've got one friend who has become a very, as successful as a set photographer can be. Single, making good money, still renting an apartment, super talented photographer. I don't know if he's happy. It's just a terrible place to live. It's so expensive. I had very good friends out there. he was a location manager on CSI and Dexter and a lot of these big shows, and his wife had a job as well, and they lived in Burbank, but they didn't have any money. They made $150,000 a year, but they didn't have any money. They had 2 kids in daycare. Rent was $2,500, $2,200, $2,300 back then. I can't imagine what it is now. It's a really tough place. And then, taking it as far as the construction goes, there are so many guys out there that will do stuff for nothing that it's going to be hard to become paid well out there. I remember when we were doing that show, I tiled the floor and we hired this guy, this Hispanic guy, to tile the bathroom wall. And he did it for like, I don't know, $200. And it was these little bitty subway tiles. It took him a week. He was happy. And it's hard to compete with that when you're at $45 a square foot.
So funny because I had a guy on this podcast, Robert Luan, and he's a concrete guy in Southern California. He does patios, hardscapes, basically, right? Like he won't do a foundation for a house, but he'll do the patio and the driveway and stuff. And he happens to be of Mexican descent, but he was born here. And he was making good money. He was doing very well in his business. He was making well over $100,000 a year, and he was only working a couple days a week running his company. And then the ICE raids happened recently. And he didn't realize how much money he could have been making from what I gather from the content that he was posting, because overnight all of his competition went away. I imagine they were either, flown or sent somewhere, but they weren't there anymore. And when I say the competition, I mean the business owners were still left, but their crews were gone.
Yeah.
So they had to literally fold, and there was a bunch of companies closing up their doors. Now he's never been busier than ever, and he was already charging a premium because he was going into the nicer neighborhoods and he was clean cut and he looked better than a lot of these other guys. But now he's really making a premium for his stuff. So he's doing okay. And I was happy to hear that. He's seems like a very good guy, and he runs a very good business. It was a great episode. But so walk me through, you get back and you started your business kind of the same way that I hear a lot of people do it. It's almost like word of mouth. You do one thing, it leads to the next phone call. Hey, this guy just did this, give him a call. Walk me through how you did that. And then did marketing ever change? Like how'd you grow the business after you got those first couple jobs and then got offered that $100,000 job?
Facebook fan pages was really a marketing platform at that time. It was fantastic. I spent about $2,000 a year boosting posts and turned it into $1 million company. That's what I did. I posted before and after photos and my phone number, and people started calling. Targeted marketing, stayed in a 10, 20 mile radius around this city, and the phone just started ringing. The first ad I posted was over Christmas. I was home visiting my father, and I got 2 calls and booked both jobs before I even I booked them once I got back here, but I got those 2 calls and opportunities from $25 worth of Facebook ads.
That's incredible. Good for you. So
I still believe in the social media marketing side of it. I spend a lot more than that now on social media, but I'm targeting a different demographic. Higher end clients are harder to get to, so it costs more. My old business partners and I always struggled with this because they thought if you spent $200, you ought to see a return. That $200 might not pay off for 4 years in this market. It's an investment. So you've got to spend money all the time. It took years for me to hear people say, man, I follow you on Instagram. But now I'll see people in Home Depot and go, aren't you Roger Scheck? It's weird. Some people are very excited to have me in their homes now.
Well, and I'm sure, some of that targeting has to be local. Like it has to be geographic, right?
100%
Especially if you're
local.
paying a higher. So, all of my growth has been organic, but I've ran into people before. Like I've ran into somebody at the airport. I've had people bump into me at Home Depot or DM me and be like, "Hey, were you just at Home Depot? Because I think I just saw you."
Yeah.
But if I was trying to run a local business and I wanted to target those ads, I could only imagine how many people actually, bump into you all the time and, like you said, are proud to work in your home. And $200 is nothing. I mean,
No. I
to get
mean,
$100,000 job or
yeah, I mean, you land one, it's totally worth it. It's just it's consistency, it's repetition. It's traditional marketing. It's the more you see something, the more it stays in your brain to where you start to compete with the long term guys that have been doing this for 20 years. I'm bidding against those guys now. So it took years of social media, and I I'm a huge Gary Vaynerchuk fan. I don't know if you follow him.
oh yeah, who doesn't?
It- some people look at me like I'm crazy, but something he said years ago, I'll butcher it, but essentially, give away your knowledge for free, and they'll be beating down your door. So, when I approach social media, I absolutely will never post a review of a client. They're on Google. You can go there for that. Social media is about edutainment, education, entertainment, period. Nobody comes to your page to see your client's review of your work. They want to see your work. They want to see, why did you choose this? Teach them something, educate them. There's this contractor is God philosophy that I've got to keep these secrets. I'm something special. And I found the exact opposite. I tell them absolutely everything I need to know for free, because most importantly to me, I hope to someday be America's Mike Holmes. I'm in too many situations where I see people come in and bid $1,000 when it's 30 or $30,000 when it's 70. And then I have to go in and the homeowner has to pay 75 because they got to tear out all their stuff. So I would rather have 100 conversations and not book those jobs, and make sure that the homeowners have the right information. Whether you hire me or not, have the right information when you're hired.
That's how you build trust. And again, when you're trying to get somebody that's not necessarily looking for the low number, or somebody that's, let's just call it what it is, either dumb or desperate enough to take a $15,000 number over a $30,000 number, that's how you build trust. And referrals, right? Like that's what's going to
Absolutely.
make you, when somebody trusts you because of the knowledge that you gave them, maybe not transparent, but how educated you made them and comfortable you made them feel, and trusted, to come into their home. That's how they're going to get the next one. That's how you're going to get the house up the street or the new person that moved in the neighborhood or whatever. Um, so as you grew, right, you started doing these little jobs and then you got the big job. Talk to me about how you handled growth. So were you out there taking loans to buy materials? Were you fluctuating a crew? Like you got up to 6, nope, that hurts. Go back down to 3, go up to 10, nope, that hurts. What was growth like for you?
When I first started out, slowly started, I had hiring people and not knowing who to hire or really what skill levels were. I hired several wrong people that ended up costing me money, and I just about lost everything and had to rebuild it. Uh, that was before I was licensed. By the time I got licensed, I had made those mistakes, lost the money, started rebuilding. I basically had to fire everybody and do the work myself again. It was me and one carpenter. We did everything beginning to end on a kitchen renovation. So then when I took the test and realized I could make more money with my pencil than my hands, um, I started subcontracting everything. So I take that. I started subcontracting everything. And then I was approached by another business owner to partner with him. And I did that for 2 years. We had $1 million payroll. Um, 15 employees at its height. And I never want to do that again. It's a miserable feeling not knowing if you're going to make payroll, acting like everything's okay, not getting the checks you think you're going to get, having to push off vendors. It's just not what I want to do. So now after they basically bought me out and I went back on my own and I've subcontracted everything since then. I've assembled probably the greatest subcontractors in 50, 60 miles. They're also some of the most expensive subcontractors in 50, 60 miles.
Exactly where I was going. So you, again, are with a premium client and you're not hard bidding out two people. You have your trusted subs, you
Yeah.
have a pulse on the pricing, and they're not going to screw you, or you know when and when not to challenge them, because if you always challenge them, they'll just charge you higher the first time anyway. But you know that they're not the cheapest guys. So, and I imagine you're probably also not competitively bidding. You're negotiating with clients to get in there.
My price is my price. I don't really, it's whatever checks I write plus 20%, 10% profit, 10% overhead, there is no negotiation. That's my price. I don't care what the job is. That's what it costs. And that's pretty standard around here for high-end contractors.
Yeah, that's pretty standard, I think, what I've heard from state to state, especially for, people that are building new homes and whatnot. They might have different ways that they cut it up, but 5, 18, 20%. I think on the higher end, I think that's what you're going to see. Because again, those people aren't going for volume. They're going for doing the right thing and doing a high quality job and not spreading themselves thin. So, and like I said, listen, I can't tell you how many people I've heard that grow to the 6, 8, 10 people, and then they're like, absolutely not. I can't do this anymore. And then they just shrink back down and they just find their niche, and then that's what they go for. Did you ever have to consider taking out a loan? Like a lot of people say, go into debt, leverage debt, and buy, new equipment, or that's how you float a payroll, or you take out a line of credit, or you build a line of credit with a material supplier so that you're not waiting for those checks and kind of biting your fingernails while you're also trying to float payroll. Did you ever consider that, or did you just always try to stay, cash positive?
I always just tried to do it on what I had. I do what's called a payment schedule, and I take a deposit because I'm not a bank. I buy your materials and all of that up front, and then we have a rough-in payment. So when my rough trades pass their inspection, we get another payment. Before the job is over, I would say I have 95% of the money in my bank account. We have 5% that's left over for a certificate of occupancy, but I've built enough trust that people know I'm not out, spending their money on another job. I structured it that way through my last company that I had partners in, and it seemed to work really well as long as the clients trust you. A lot of my jobs, they'll have $50,000 worth of cabinets and $12,000 worth of plumbing fixtures. So I'm not bankrolling that. And I simply explain that to the clients that I have to buy this stuff up front. I don't start the job until I know those delivery dates. And I'm in and out in the amount of time I say. Like, my jobs don't run over. They don't run over on budget. They don't run over on time because I know how to schedule and I know how to run cash flow. But it's my client's cash flow 90% of the time, not mine. I'm just, a general contractor is a financial steward of a homeowner. That's what they are. They're not supposed to be running crown molding. They're supposed to be watching out for the money, paying subs. My painter always says fast payment makes fast friends. And I have literally driven to my hardwood floor guy's daughter's gymnastics to pay him the day he finished to make sure he had his money. And that makes me the priority among other other people that are paying them that have net 30 or net 60 or something like that.
Cash is king. I
Yeah.
mean, net 30 or net 60, is that normal? Do people try to get away with that in residential? I feel like it's always weekly or biweekly because of that.
Net 30 is very, very common for the bigger guys here.
Really?
And then in commercial, it can be 70 or 9 or 60 or 90.
Yeah, I mean, commercial net 30 is very normal. For
Yeah.
me, my clients are, the people that make this laptop or the phones that we talk on are, the banks that are in our pockets right now. But very easily it could be 45, 60. And even if those are they can come up with reasons to not get that clock to start
Sure.
ticking, right? And then you're out 90
Yeah.
or even 180 days. And I get stuck in situations all the time where I'm like, hey, this is mom and pop shop here that we had to do this. This is a 6-person company. They can't float 100 grand. We have to pay them. You're going to put them out of business. Unfortunately I've had to have those conversations quite a bit. But I love that model, and I think it's a great model to work towards. What I'm interested in, what jobs do you are there any jobs that you stay away from? So it sounds like you've kind of moved around and done a little bit of everything that somebody might want on a property. Have you been stung, or like, is it just kitchens and baths?
Um, I'm really good at kitchens and bathrooms. I could write a book on it, beginning to end, 16 weeks. I know how long everything takes. When I get stung is when I leave kitchens and bathrooms. I had a big remodel job that had a deck on it, and they needed the front door lock changed. And I was like, sure, I'm here. We're doing the bathroom. I'll change your front door lock. That was the biggest pain in my ass. That front door lock, the door was a hair too small. The hardware was a hair too big. I think it took the full 6 to 8 weeks to sort this thing out and get the lock to work on this door. You got to do those small things when it's part of a bigger job and it's a good client. I can't just say, no, find someone else to do your door lock. But it's just every time the small stuff kills me. That's what it is. When I take on small jobs, that usually bites me and ends up being not profitable or losing money. And I don't know why. I guess it just, there's always something missed I guess there's not as much to absorb on a small job.
Mm-hmm.
When there's a mistake on a small job, there's your whole profit.
That's it.
Whereas when you have that same mistake on a job that's 10 times that amount of money, you wiggle, you make it work. It's not that big a deal. It's just my experience.
It's funny. It's funny you say that, because my job right now is I'm no longer doing large jobs, at least for the time being. I'm running, the company that I work for during the day, $14 billion a year company, and we're building like a national service division. And the reason that nobody's been able to do that, a lot of people have tried and failed, is because the small jobs hurt real bad and there's no wiggle room. To take care of something for a client, it could take 6 to 8 weeks to do something stupid. Well, that costs a lot of people working with pencils a lot of time, which is a lot of money, and you blow that, right? But if you do it, it's typically to keep somebody happy or to maintain a relationship. Well, we found a better way to do it. So but the reason that we have to do it is because if we find it painful, our clients definitely find it painful too. And they feel like they have to jump up and down and beg people to come paint a wall for them. But if they have $100 million job, they'll have 20 GCs lined up down the block to do it and give them the best,
Right.
the best of the
Right.
best, right?
Yeah.
So, it's definitely funny you say that, but I'm not surprised that you have your niche and that's what you concentrate on. And I think more and more people I talk to, they have the phrase, jack of all trades, master of none. Anybody that builds a business, especially where they're charging a client a premium, it's a niche. They have what they do, they know how to do, and they know how to do it really well. So it's just an interesting thing, because I try not to give a ton of entrepreneurship advice because I am not an entrepreneur. But I talk to a lot of them, and I do have to acknowledge, when I talk to young kids in high school, if they are interested in construction, whether they're interested in construction or not, they are almost all interested in being entrepreneurs. And I think they have this mentality of like, take over the world and just do it all. And it's
Yeah.
just not the way, not the successful business owners that I know. That's not what they do.
You find your niche, and that's how you get rich. I mean, get really, really good at one thing.
So what jobs do you, so if those are the things that you kind of hate because you get stung and you know it might burn a little bit, what's the job that gets you going? Like what job do you look at and you're like, oh, this is going to be a good one?
Kitchens and bathrooms, both. I love them. I'm really good at them. I can see the end result before the client can. Um, I know the right choices to make. I know the right things to do. It just, it's almost like that movie Limitless. I just see it. It's all laid out for me. I know it all. I can sleep at night because it's done.
So when you think about growth, is growth in the future for Roger Scheck? And what does that look like?
It would be higher end kitchens. I want to do a $350,000 kitchen instead of a $150,000 kitchen. To me, that would be what I'd want to do. Great big wet rooms for some, I don't know, wealthy person. I don't know, a basketball player or something. You know, some obscene bathroom that costs $500,000. That's what I'd want to do. But I don't want employees again. I have no desire to. You know, I run 4 jobs, 5 jobs, maybe at a time, depending on what they are. But I make good money. I really don't have complaints. I'm not looking to be one of these bigger companies that does commercial and residential, and they've got the service side, and there's several of those here. But I look at their employees. I look how unhappy their employees are. I look at their work. That's not the work I want to do. That's not the product I want to deliver. So, you know, I'd rather take the money I make and buy rental properties, and get rich that way than trying to get rich as a general contractor.
Is there a greater purpose for you? Is it all about, you know, getting rich and rental properties? Does it play into, you know, you being a father? What's the motivator for you?
My family's everything. I want to make sure my wife and kids have what they need. I really want my kids to develop a work ethic. So, you know, I joke around about my daughter being a general contractor with her all the time. And I think she's actually more inclined to it than my boy. But I would love for them to honestly go be an electrician for a year, then go be a plumber for a year, you know, try some different hats. I think when I was in high school, you had the guys that did the welding class and they did the auto mechanics and they did the carpentry. And then you had everybody else. And we were kind of taught that, no, you want to go to college, just get any job and it's a good job. Well, one of the welders I knew was making $120,000 when he was 22, and I was going in $100,000 worth of debt for film school. But I went and got any job. It's just, we were really misled. Really misled. That's one of the things I liked about that last post you did. And I get in this debate all the time. College, the statistics about college degrees, and you broke it down better than I've ever seen anybody break it down, that it's not apples to apples when you're talking like that.
So my daughter's probably a lot younger than yours, but I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and my daughter has an, I don't know if affection or affinity is the right word, but she loves dirt. I feel like I could see her in a bulldozer and an excavator, and I'd be okay with that. Same thing with my son. I mean, if he wanted to be I'd love for him to go be an electrician, a plumber, and then take it from there. And I think, you know, the life experience that you get from that is so much better. Because that's the other argument people have, right? They're like, oh, you get life experience, you learn, you meet new people. You want to meet people, man. Like, go out there and throw yourself in the real world, around people that have real world experience and learn from them. People in college, they don't have real world experience. They just came out of high school. They don't know
got
anything.
a bunch of other kids around them. Just, it's an echo chamber. You've got these college professors with an agenda echoing to these kids that are super impressionable, going out to the bar and echoing back to each other. Is just, college is an echo chamber. That's all it is. And it's I mean, we know why it's there. We know why the school system's there. It's to make good little workers and
Right.
don't think outside the box. It's very rarely do people break outside of that.
How do you balance being a father with, running your own company? And one of the stigmas is yeah, if you want to be successful, if you want to make money, say bye to your family. You're not going to have time for that. How do you feel about that?
I don't go to work until 8:30. My first appointment's usually at 9. And I'm home by 4:35 at the latest every day. Don't work weekends. I'll have an occasion, maybe 2-3 times a year, I'll do a 7 o'clock meeting because a job I really, really want, that's when they get off from work. So I'll go talk to them. But 99% of the time, people make time. If they're serious, they figure out a way to meet you at lunch or, go into work an hour late or something. It always works out. So when I first started, I was working 7 days a week, 10, 15 hours a day. And I just about missed the first year of my boy's life. And, I don't know, something clicked. That was it. I was done. And I just drew a hard line in the sand. I just started telling people, no, I can do it at 9:30 if you'd like. But I'm not available after 5. I pick up my kids. I'm with my kids. I'm with my family. And 99.9% of the time they're okay with it. It's just a non-issue for me.
It's funny you say that because I struggle with that a lot. And being able to say no is almost like a skill. And it's something that you
Yeah.
have to work at and become comfortable with. And what I've come to find is most of the time, if you say no, and even if you have to be transparent about it, like, my son has this, school field trip, whatever, and I want to be there. Usually people get it, in this day and age, people get it. And I've actually had my CEO and my COO on 2 separate occasions pull me aside and remind me of such. So, like, the pressure might be there and it may come from us, but that's always first and foremost, most important. Make sure you take care of them, make sure you're present, because that's what matters. So, and that's, when you think about like corporate America and the man, evil capitalism, these would be those guys that you would allegedly would think would be, evil with the magnifying glass, burning you with the sun. They're not, especially if you just say no and you talk to them about it. What would you say to somebody coming in? I hear all the time, it's all on who you know. You can't get a job unless you know somebody, or it's like the chicken or the egg. How do you get the experience if you can't get your first shot? If you were to talk to a younger guy or girl and they were looking for that first opportunity, how would you say they find it? What should they do?
Be open to digging ditches. You want to be a plumber's apprentice? You're not running water pipes to begin with. You want to be a carpenter's assistant, and be present. Be present. Listen when they talk. Watch what they're doing. People are dying to get help. I've got a very skilled carpenter who starts people out with no experience at $30 an hour. Just the opportunities are there if you'll just listen and learn and try. Put your cell phone down. That's a big thing. I'm on my cell phone doing business. You're on there playing games. So when you're there, learn, ask questions. The way I became a better general contractor, I would stand by the plumber and ask him what he's doing and why. So, and then I did the same thing with the electrician and HVAC. I'm dumb. Teach me. I want to know what you're doing and why we're doing it. What's the code on this? So I know electrical and plumbing codes. I know these things, which allows me to talk to a homeowner in a more educated way. So thirst for knowledge, I would say, is very important. Show interest. show initiative. Getting the job, I know plumbers and electricians that would hire now for somebody that would be willing just to pull wire or run to the truck once in a while. So the opportunities, at least here, the opportunities are there. People are always looking for help.
Yeah, you got to be willing to start at the bottom. I was digging ditches, sweeping floors, scrubbing toilets on job sites. Probably about the nastiest kind of bathroom that you could probably imagine, right? And we all start somewhere, right? And exactly what you said, you have to be interested. Not only is that going to show people that you're worth their time, but it's almost like a natural subconscious reaction that people have that they have to take care of you, and they take a vested interest in your success because you put them in a mentorship role, right? You make them feel like they're an expert. So they're going to be a lot easier to work with because you made them feel that way.
Absolutely.
And again, they probably don't even realize it, but I even use that as, when I became a superintendent and then a project manager, and I was young and I was managing people that were twice my age, and the last person that they'd want to hear from is me. I would do that all the time. Even if I knew, I would ask the question just to work on creating that perception of that person that I was working with or trying to manage. Right. And it worked out. So there's a tremendous amount of power that can come from that. We are coming up on an hour. I try to keep it to an hour. Is there anything that you were hoping that you get to talk about, or just general advice for anybody out there still listening?
Unless you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer or something very specific, go be a plumber or electrician. You're going to spend a fortune getting your degree. I did. I'm still, I graduated in 2006. I still owe $18,000 on my student loan that I'm paying on.
20 years.
It's insane. You can be a welder, pipe fitter. I think didn't you just post something about sprinkler fitters?
Sprinkler fitters make a lot of money.
There's so many opportunities to get really, really wealthy. You don't have to go to college. And the odds are, if you go to college, you're going to spend $40,000, if you're lucky, on a job that pays you $40,000 a year, if you're lucky. So now you got to pay that off for 20 years. It just sets you behind. So most of the time. I'm not anti-college.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of wasted time and money going to college.
Yeah, and I agree. And I'm not anti-education. I think I obviously get that rap a little bit. And I'm going to address that probably later this week. But I had a post one time, they had these 3D printers that alleged people think they just crap out houses fully coordinated and just like ready to flick the lights on. It eliminates one trade, kind of, not even really.
Right.
And I rattled off 50 other trades off the top of my head that would be needed, 50 different trades. And then I just threw it out in the comment section, like, what am I missing? What trades am I missing? And I think I got up to like 80 trades that people threw in there after me. And it was actually almost kind of embarrassing because I forgot some really like obvious trades, but I truly went off the top of my head and I rattled off 50. People talk about electricians and plumbers and carpenters because that's what they know. But there's so many other things out there. And even the ones that don't pay as much as a sprinkler fitter or a plumber or a welder. I've had tile guys on here that run multi-million-dollar businesses with a small amount of people. They're pulling in 7 figures a year because they do bathroom tile. And I got the guy who I'm referring to. I should give you his handle because he has great content. He does houses in Lake Tahoe, and really nice lake house, like the type of houses that you're probably working on in your area. He's doing on the lake in Lake Tahoe, just beautiful, beautiful work. And the notion that somebody would kind of poo-poo that or look down because he's doing tile and he's got the knee pads on and he's got the trowel and, they would look down on that. And it's like, yeah, he's running a multi-million-dollar business though.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
I mean, I know a tile guy, he's one-man band. He makes $150,000 a year. I mean,
goes to work, does his thing. Well, and that's the other thing too. And I'm sure if you talk to him, I bet he was a one-man band because he doesn't want to deal with other people. And a lot of people, especially in construction, it's one of my favorite things about construction is that people make so much money in the field when they get a taste of the office, what we'll call the office, whether it's management or sales or client relations, whatever. they're like, please send me back to the field. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to make my good paycheck and go home. So it's something that I don't think a lot of young people can fathom, but it's probably more often than not, I think. So, Roger, man, I appreciate you coming on. Such a unique story. I'm consistently just impressed and kind of wowed by the stories that everybody has when they come on here. You're yet again another unique one, and I think people will take a lot from it. So I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity.
All right, why don't you tell people where they can find you before we sign off?
My main Instagram account is my name, Roger Scheck, at ROGERSCHECK. Facebook is Roger Scheck Construction. Website is rogerscheckconstruction.com, but you'll see 90% of my content is on Instagram.
And it's great content. Make sure you go follow him. I'm going to tag him in anything that I post here. And again, Construction Mentor Podcast. I appreciate everybody for listening. Catch you next time.